Hi, this is Chrissy Incognito, and welcome to another episode of my show. Now, you might be wondering why I'm incognito. This is my alter ego that can say things that I cannot otherwise say unless I was incognito. So, thank you for returning. In order to understand more about this episode, view the previous episode. Happy listening. Okay, and thank you and welcome back. Okay. So I've been putting off this particular video because there's just stuff all over the place and I didn't even know where to start. So this episode is going to be entitled Mike. Okay? Not to be confused with Michael, okay? So at this point this Ian was kinda still around, okay? And, I was in my first apartment, and we were kinda still seeing each other and whatnot, it wasn't gonna work. I mean, we just wanted 2 different things, and even if we wanted the same things, I was not functional enough to have a relationship. So, you know, where does that lead me? It leads me online in a chat room trying to find a relationship. That seems to be everybody's answer to everything. I'm separated, let me go in a chat room. I'm divorced, let me go in a chat room. I just got married, let me go in a chat room. Like the ink isn't even dry and everybody's in these friggin' chat rooms and I am guilty of it as well. So I go back into the AOL chat rooms and I met Mike. Now, where I was living, he was in the same state, but he lived about 75 miles away. Okay. So it wasn't very close. Um, so we started talking, and at this point, my landlords in my first apartment, like I said, they were kind of on the first floor. I was on the second and the attic, the third floor, and then there was somebody in the basement. Well, their marriage is really stressful because they have 2 kids and small, and now they just had another baby. And, of course, add that to the mix. And so now they need an au pair, which is a nanny. It's an overseas nanny. Okay, so an au pair is coming from, I don't know, Europe somewhere, and they've got to put her somewhere. So help me, right? And I get it, gave me 2 weeks, you're out. Okay. Um, so I had nowhere to go. Um, and so I had to go where my parents were. But at this point, they were redoing the house, and I couldn't come live with them. So I had to get an apartment, and this was like a real apartment, what they call garden apartments. So it's a very disruptive. I'm still not stable, okay? And then Mike and I start talking, and so this was probably somewhere in the middle or beginning of 2001. And so we start talking and we start dating, and he has such a good personality. Um, and he does stand-up comedy on the side. So he's funny, he's nice. We kind of come from the same background, in a sense. And so we start dating. We start dating. And so at this time, my parents' house is finishing up. And well, it's not quite finished yet. So they were renting somewhere, but they had to get out because the usual renters were coming in. So they like subleased, and so now these renters needed it back. So they came to live in my little small garden apartment, which is okay. So I started at this point, I did not have a job because I was finishing up the last year of the master's program, but I didn't have a job. Or no, I'm sorry, I had a job. It just was like part time, it was here and there and everything like that. So I went and lived with Mike. Um, I would do like 5 days or something, then come back and, take care of my stuff in my apartment, see my parents, and then go back. So at this point, Mike and I were spending a lot of time together. Okay. Um, so we went to Disney. I had never gone to Disney before. So we went to Disney, which was really fun. And he exposed me to the whole Disney thing. And there are 1,000 people at my work that are obsessed with Disney. So I kind of knew what they were talking about. And Mike's family was obsessed with Disney. So time goes by and my parents move into the renovated house and it's a year, so my apartment is up for renewal and instead of renewing because I have no idea where I'm going to be, I move back with my parents. Okay. So Mike and I start dating. And now by this time, it's probably a year. Okay. We've been dating a year and a half. And I finished the master's program and I put in an application in his town for a place that I would qualify. Okay. They wanted a master's degree, they wanted these certain things. And I put it in. And so I got the job. And so naturally, we've been going out for a year and a half. We've been on vacation together. I met his family, he met my family. I temporarily lived with him until my parents could vacate, you know. Okay, it's fine in the beginning. And we move in now. He had Nikki. That's my baby. That's my first baby girl. So he had Nikki, and oh, Nikki was so feisty and so cute. And I just fell in love with her. And so of course she became my baby. And we were inseparable, me and the Nikki girl. So we start acting like a couple. I even tried to sort of cook, which I don't do. And he kind of cooked, and we were having dinner every night, and we were going to our or respective jobs, whatever they call it, and coming in and eating and going grocery shopping and having Sunday dinner with his family. And so everything I had my first real kind of job. So things started to fall into place. Well, somewhere in there, and I'm not sure where, it all started to fall out of place. Okay. She started to snap at me a lot. And I cannot for the life of me remember what it was, but it wasn't like him to do this. So it wasn't that anything was happening. This was just another side to his personality that I did not see. And I remember we started to argue about something. I don't even and I think at the time I was trying to figure out why he was pissed off, which made him more pissed off. And he was just being unreasonable. And I never found out why he was mad. It wasn't with me. But when I tried to discuss it, then he got mad at me and he stormed out of the house. This was 2 weeks into living together. And I turned to Nikki, because I talk to her all the time, and I said, I don't know how long mommy's going to be living here. Because my whole thinking is it's one thing if you're angry or you're like, I don't want to talk about it right now, and I'm just so upset. Fine. Okay, that's fine. But he got so angry at me for wanting to communicate, discuss things. But I was like, I'm going to go nowhere in this relationship. I am going to go no, like you cannot go anywhere if two people are not willing to talk about what's going on. And I could have gotten over it if it was just like he was having a bad day, but then it started and it was a chain reaction, right? I wanted to talk about this stuff. He got aggravated and then he wanted to do this and then it was just it just was not working. And it mm, I guess you could say he kind of had a tendency to be a little hot-headed. But I just didn't see it over the year and a half that I was dating him before we moved in. And he didn't want kids. So that was we were on the same, you know, we were on the same page about that. Um, but I knew right at that fight that this was not going to work. I'm not going to be in a relationship with somebody that I can't communicate with and that gets angry for me wanting to communicate. And it wasn't anything significant. It wasn't like, oh, we found out your uncle was like drunk driving and now he's arrested. And he's going to cost your grandparents a lot of money. Nothing like that. Nothing like that. I don't want to talk about it. Okay. It was some everyday thing. And now you might look at me and say that's really intolerant. And it is, but I've I fought with argued, I should say, because I don't really fight with people. If we're fighting, we're not compatible. And I know no one else takes that position because everybody's just so used to having such a dysfunctional relationship that they couldn't see a relationship without fighting. Okay. But if I can't talk to you about stuff, I've had arguments with other boyfriends and we've talked it out. Even if we still didn't agree with each other, we at least each of us like showed our positions like this is what I feel, this is what you feel. And and sometimes at the end one person would change and sometimes at the end nobody would change. And so but you're at least trying. When somebody just blows up at you and storms out and you don't even know what happened, this is going to be an ongoing thing. And I'm not tolerant when it comes to that. And as well as people shouldn't be tolerant of me if I acted like that. And I'm sure with Brian and other boyfriends, I did. Okay. So I get it. I probably did that a lot, you know. But at this point, we were like 28, 29. So we were a little bit older and we had more experience in relationships. So I still probably couldn't have been functional. I was stable. I was on my medication. I seemed to be going in the right directions as far as having a boyfriend, making a bigger commitment, having my first like real job and stuff like that. And so I just knew this wasn't going to work and it just got progressively worse. Nothing serious. Again, just snapping at me, not wanting to talk, getting irritable. Um, just things that it just was not going to change. It just was not going to change. This was a part of his personality that I just either didn't notice or see, or it just there was nothing that prompted him to for this part to come out because even though we were together, now we're together every day, every night, and everything like that. So I started to distance myself. And the job at first, the job for I was there for about 2 years. So was, the job was good. And then they restructured things in the company and then it became bad. So I have this bad relationship and now I have this bad job and I have nowhere to go because I'm living with him and I'm working in town and I'm not making enough to live on my own. Okay. So we have 2 years like this. I guess we dated all together like 2.5 years, but it just progressively got more distant, our relationship. And then at some point, I started to go back online because that's the answer to everything. I'm being completely facetious, like just to make matters worse. Let's just throw somebody else in there, right? So I go back online and I start meeting um guys here and there, not physically meeting, like on the phone. Like we would take it from the computer to the phone, and that's kind of like, "Hi, I'm meeting you." I started to have this situation with a guy named Anthony, and it was funny because I wouldn't meet him because I was in a relationship. He knew I was in a relationship. Um I didn't hide that. I explained it's just not working out, and I'm just, I have to bide my time until I figure out what I'm going to do. But it was so funny because I went into work and I started to tell my coworker about Anthony. And I remember saying to her, I'm not gonna cheat on Mike or anything. I'm just, talking to Anthony. And it was the first time I ever heard the term emotional affair. I was like, what's that? And she's like, well, when somebody is giving you emotion or giving you support emotionally and mentally and psychologically, but you're not having any kind of physical contact with them. And I thought, I am having an emotion. That's exactly what this is. Like, I had never heard that term. I mean, now we hear it now. Um, but this was probably like 2002. So I had never heard that term before. And when I looked at it, I was like, I am. And I remember being like, and she's like, "Well, what are you gonna do?" And I was like, "Well, I I kind of just thought, in my pea brain, that cheating would mean obviously meet you have to meet somebody, right, to cheat. And this is I guess a cheating without physically meeting or doing anything. So that went that went on